Judas Iscariot was welcomed into the apostolic party as the 12th apostle by Jesus in July 26 CE. Judas was nominated by Nathanael, one of the first 6 apostles. When Nathanael met Judas at Taricheae, Judas was 30 years of age and unmarried. He was probably the best educated man among the 12 and the only Judean in the Master's apostolic family. The Judeans looked down upon Galileans as being less sophisticated and not as religious as they were. Judas was never able to rise above his Judean prejudices against his Galilean associates, and Jesus himself was a Galilean. Almost from the beginning, Judas began finding fault with Jesus, questioning him about why nothing was being done to get John the Baptist out of prison. Judas was also preoccupied with what position he was to hold in the coming kingdom. As it was, his position in the apostolic party was as treasurer. He carried the money, kept the budget, and handed out funds as needed. Up to the time of the betrayal of his master, he discharged the responsibilities of his office honestly, faithfully, and most efficiently. He was good with money. But there was something else going on inside of Judas. All of the apostles loved Jesus as a friend from the beginning, all except Judas, and their friendship inspired loyalty to the master. Judas had no real friends, no close friends. Even Nathanael, who nominated him to be an apostle, came under criticism by Judas, but he saved his bitterest criticisms for Jesus, who could have been his best friend as he was for the other apostles. But Jesus accepted Judas as a faith adventure. Jesus fully understood Judas and risked admitting him into his inner circle, hoping his faith might be ignited. He gave Judas every chance to be the man Jesus knew he could be. Jesus did everything possible, consistent with his freedom of choice, to prevent Judas's choosing to go the wrong way. But Judas accepted the master only superficially, never taking to heart the master's teachings, never devoting himself to his own personal progress and spiritual experience, always finding reason to resent Jesus and always magnifying his own self-importance. For a long time, Judas nursed his disappointments, his resentments, and his suspicions. He was not able to confide his true feelings to any of the other apostles, so he brooded about them and kept them alive in his heart. Finally, he snapped when Mary used the expensive bottle of oil on Jesus' feet, yelling at Andrew that this was a waste of money. Jesus gently rebuked Judas, but the rebuke unleashed all those inner feelings he'd kept bottled up for so long, and he decided then and there he was going to get even with Jesus and certain other apostles for what he saw as his humiliation. From there, he swiftly plunged down into confusion, despair, and actual betrayal. When Jesus entered Jerusalem on the donkey, Judas saw this as a disgrace. He was sensitive to his Sadducee family friend who ridiculed the whole spectacle, and he felt ashamed of Jesus. He was torn between wanting to make a complete break or staying with the apostolic party. But when he heard the master's denunciation of the Jewish leaders in his last temple talk, he finally made up his mind to forsake the gospel movement and wash his hands of the whole enterprise. He didn't want to be associated with what he saw as the lost cause of the kingdom of heaven that Jesus proclaimed. Judas could not endure the humiliating thought of being identified with a movement of defeat. So he went into the city and met with the enemies of Jesus. He thought they would congratulate him and welcome him, give him high honors, which he craved. It was never about the money, but the praise that he wanted. He had wanted that from the beginning from Jesus, but it never came. So he conspired with the Jerusalem authorities who promised a reward for his services, even though they secretly despised him. Even at the Last Supper, Judas's perverse desire for preference exhibited itself, despite his intentions to desert Jesus and the apostles. Jesus, who was fully aware of Judas' intentions, plainly called him out as a betrayer, but the rest of the apostles seemed not to notice or understand. When Jesus told Judas to do what he had decided to do and do it quickly, Judas left the supper table and went into the city to meet with Jesus' enemies who were waiting for him. He planned and executed the events after the Last Supper, when he came with the palace guards, promising to deliver the master with little or no trouble. By the time they all arrived at Gethsemane, it was not even necessary that he so outwardly betray Jesus, but he wanted to look good to those who were going to pay him the blood money. So he identified the master with his traitorous kiss and Jesus was taken into custody without incident, just as the rulers had hoped. In the terrible hours that followed, Judas slowly began to grasp the gravity of what he had done. He felt a kind of confused remorse, but it came too late. In despair and sorrow, he ended his own life on the same day that the Master had his life taken from him.